Hello, my name is Eleanor Guetta, and this is my final video essay for my History 370 / Sociology 301 Contemporary U.S. Immigration Policy class. So the central question for this final exam video essay is, what is legal passing? So in the book that we read for this class, titled Legal Passing: Navigating Undocumented Life and Local Immigration Law by Angela Garcia, this term, legal passing, is introduced. And on page 134, it explains it to be a strategic presentation of self to the outside world that takes on characteristics associated with mainstream U.S.-born groups to mask unauthorized immigration status. To put that in simple words, basically it just means the tendency for undocumented immigrants to change their appearance and their mannerisms to pass as legal and as more American. In the two cities examined in this book, one being Santa Ana, which was more accepting towards immigrants, and the other being Escondido, which was very restrictive towards immigrants, there are a lot of similarities in how these people utilize legal passing strategies. So one being, both of these people change their appearances in order to avoid detection. So in terms of their clothes, they may have worn less baggy clothing and gang-affiliated colors in order to be seen as safe and not dangerous. They would change the length and color of their hair, their mannerisms, and their attitude as well, especially because the relationship with police and immigrants isn't exactly the best. So they wanted to keep this calm and collected attitude that makes them seem as though they belong, as they know where they're going, in order to appear as regular American citizens. However, there are many differences in how these two cities also utilize these strategies. One is the difference of motivations. In Santa Ana, due to the fact that they were more accepting towards immigrants, a lot of the legal passing strategies were utilized in order to not be affiliated with gangs. However, in Escondido, due to the more restrictive and threatening nature towards immigrants, they tended to use these legal passing strategies for everything in order to not be detected, in order to not be deported, and not just that one gang affiliation quality. So it really depended on the severity of immigration policy in the area. So that brings me into my experiment. When I was thinking of what to do with this final, I thought to myself, I really would like to try. Of course, I could never fully understand the lived experience of immigrants in this country. I wanted to try and put myself in the shoes that they have to fill every single day. I myself am a first-generation college student. My parents both immigrated from their respective countries in Latin America. So I have somewhat of a background, but I still wanted to try and understand what type of changes these people have to go through every single day. Over the course of 3 days, I dressed in drastically different aesthetics and tried to see what kind of results I got. So today is the first day of my social experiment. Today's outfit aesthetic is inspired by a lot of Latina type styles. So the makeup, the lip liner is very reminiscent of Chola, Mexican traditional type. I'll put a picture. So these are cholas. They're part of a Mexican-American subculture urban group affiliated with gangs mostly in the 90s. However, nowadays, this style is definitely used all throughout Latina culture and things like that. This is not what I would usually wear to class. I'm a little bit nervous. I feel like I have to exert a level of confidence that I don't know if I have. This is the outfit. I'm scared. What was that? You want out? No, I'm just going to class. Like that? Yeah. Wait, what were you saying?
I saw you walked out of class and I was like, that wasn't her. What is she wearing? Looking all nice.
Thank you.
The class.
Okay, so day one is done. It was insane how much the way that you present yourself dictates the amount of interactions you have with people, the type of interactions that you have with people. And I actually made an effort to record the amount of times that people stared at me and talked to me about my outfits. In total, I got at least 10 stares, and by stares I mean like directly like looking at me for more than a split second and looking back at me, those types of things. And I got at least 7 times when people told me, oh, you look so nice, are you going somewhere, this and this and that. Brought up a lot of questions within myself about things like pretty privilege, so being really obsessed with the perception that others have of me. So that was day 1 of my experiment. So this is the second day's outfit. It's very much businesswoman. I think I was inspired by this clean girl aesthetic that people talk about. This aesthetic was popularized on TikTok, and it's about creating an effortlessly elegant look. It's sort of a presentation that makes me look more professional and put together, even though I might not be.
Damn, you go to a business meeting or something?
No.
Administration? Okay.
Okay, so evaluations on how today went. Definitely a lot less stares than yesterday. I think I was definitely in a more muted outfit, but I did feel as though people did look at me and think like, oh, professional, like put together. And I felt myself speaking and acting in a more eloquent manner simply because I was dressed differently. So this is my outfit today. It's very much inspired by like skater style. Skater style has evolved over time, but it really comes from the 70s, 80s, and 90s baggy clothing for skate parks. Also this. A lot of the style tends to come from minorities such as Hispanics and African Americans who definitely used this style during the 80s and 90s, but it was even seen as gangster and associated with gangs. We'll see how it goes. Wait, what'd you say? It's really interesting. Why do you think? Manual labor. Ooh, I see that. So it's the end of the day. Reflections. This outfit brought me more security. I felt like I went out along my day thinking less about what I was wearing and more about what I was doing. I wasn't taken seriously sometimes with adults. I feel like they looked at me like I was like lazy, but I also found myself feeling more safe, especially while walking around at night due to the fact that I was dressed in a more masculine manner, which says something. So this brings us to the end of my experiment, and there are 2 really important questions that I have to address. The first is, what does legal passing have to do with symbolic violence? Symbolic violence is a type of non-physical violence manifested in power differences between social groups. So in the ethnography, these 2 groups that are examined are immigrants and police. The police system in our country has a lot of stereotypes due to racialization towards immigrants that enforce legal passing. So what this means is that immigrants know that they are more likely to be detected or set apart by police if they continue with certain types of mannerisms and types of clothing, such as the gang-affiliated colors that we talked about before. Therefore, they will use legal passing strategies to not be detected. And this creates a lack of trust between immigrants and police. I really saw this in my experiment on the 3rd day. I felt as though because I was wearing these baggy jeans and baggy shirt and stuff like that, I wasn't taken as seriously. I was looked more as lazy. And even one of my friends told me that I had this blue collar type look. And that was really interesting because in the ethnography, there was a case presented of this couple in Escondido, Lorena and Pancho, and he basically is a blue-collared worker. He's a construction worker, and every day he would come home full of dirt. And his wife was worried that he would have to pass through a traffic stop and he would be detected by police because he looked rugged and out of place. So she started packing him white-collared clothing, like khakis and a dress shirt, for him to change into after work in order to avoid detection. This really brings forward this question of how legal passing relates to the assimilation process. So people immigrants are forced to pretend for so long that they eventually become it. And this creates this generational gap between the immigrants and the children that are born after them, because they want them to become Americanized, to belong, just as though they have struggled to do so. And this is seen in Juan's podcast that we listened to, but also in the ethnography, the case of Pedro Jesus, who lives in Escondido, who described as when he walked through Escondido in order to avoid detection, he had to use this strong and confident, knowledgeable type attitude in order to create this sense of belonging, in order to have an Americanized presentation of self. And that really reminded me of my first and my second day. I wasn't necessarily in my element, so I had to project this confidence and walk through my campus with this confidence that I didn't necessarily have. And I pretended for so long that by the end of the day, I was feeling myself. I felt that confidence. And in terms of the ethnography, it brings this idea up that immigrants are treated better if they are legal passing, and the police will leave them alone. So this evaluation brings me into my 2 takeaways for this class. The first is the humanization of immigration. As many times in this country, immigrants are referred to as in numbers, as beds that they would put in an ICE facility, as criminals, as aliens. But I think we forget that these are people. These are people that every single day have to wake up and work a little extra, not even a little, way more, to just be seen as American. I only did this for 3 days. I only tried really hard for 3 days to be presented in a certain way, and it was exhausting. It was mentally exhausting to have to be checking in the mirror constantly to see if my makeup was good, or if I looked professional, or if I looked chill. For these people to have to be doing this 24/7, to be pretending, to be on edge, that creates a big issue in which they aren't being treated as human. They aren't being given the respect that they deserve. For my DDGP presentation, mine was about access to representation. It was about bringing these people the general basic human rights that they deserve. My second takeaway is the power that stereotypes and racialization has. It's deeply rooted in everything of our society, in how we act, in the way that we interact with each other, in the way that we perceive each other, and in the way that we are perceived. And that brings us to the police force and the way that they see people and the big issues that are created in that effect. I mean, the mistrust between immigrants and police. The power that stereotypes and racialization has is seen throughout our entire history in all of the immigration policies that are racialized. I mean, the Chinese Exclusion Act, things that have been occurring over years in this country that are still occurring today. These stereotypes infiltrate all levels of our society. And although I may not experience these kinds of things, there are still a lot of discrepancies that occur in our country that are as a result of prejudices like this. I mean, whether someone is white passing, whether someone is straight passing, all of these things cause us to change our mannerisms to be accepted. I myself code switch often. I change the way I speak when I'm with different groups in order to be treated in a specific way. I think something important that I learned was there are a lot of things that our society say are okay for one group of people but aren't. There was some days that I dressed in this like chola inspired type makeup, but if cholas are wearing it back in the 90s or maybe even now, they're seen as dangerous, as gang affiliated, as illegal. But if someone of a different type of background was wearing it, it would be seen as stylish and trendy. Same thing with the baggy clothing. It's now seen as stylish and trendy when before it was seen as gang affiliated and dangerous. So I think to tie everything together, legal passing is a direct effect of the stereotyped and racialized system that we have put in place in this country for immigration. So thank you so much for listening to my video essay. I really enjoyed going through this process and learning, and I really enjoyed this class a lot. So thank you.